Hello everyone, my name is Saksham Dikshit and this is my channel Pentest Diaries. So today I'll make another video in the same series of Solidity programming series, and in this today I'll just try to explain you about the inheritance. This is the most awaited topic and which I just wanted to explain you about it. So what is inheritance? Everything is just trying to get it covered in this, and it's a similar concept which we're trying to use it. Like we'll just start with the theory part first, and once we're done with the theory part we'll go for the practical. Only one code I have prepared for this, so we'll just go with the theory part first, and once we're done with that we'll go for the practical. So what exactly the inheritance, why we utilize that, and why exactly the need of the inheritance itself. We have so many things inside of the Solidity, so what's the need of it? And inheritance is not the concept which is utilized only in Solidity. In many other sections also it was utilized, like by any other ways itself, like in different programming languages by different ways we are utilizing inheritance. But in Solidity, what's the need of it and why we require that? So that's we trying to get it covered in this video. So in case of inheritance in Solidity is a way to structure and organize a smart contract code by allowing one contract to inherit properties and functionalities from another contract. It means like whensoever we trying to make a smart contract and similar smart contract we're trying to make it, so at that time there is no need to make the same code, same functions once again and again. We'll try to inherit those functions which is present in another contract. We'll just simply have to inherit, utilize that, and over there itself wheresoever we'll try to inherit it, that we call it as a base contract, and wheresoever we'll try to import that, or I can say that inherit that we call it as a derived contract itself. So that's a concept. Make sure that you understand both the concept very clearly, what's the base contract and what is the derived. So on the basis of that only you can able to understand what exactly the syntax and how exactly the flow will be going further with that. It may be a possibility just seeing this video, it's not make you understand in one shot. So repeat the video once again, try to see that video once again so that you can able to understand. But make sure this is a two concept which you have to be very clear about it. And two keywords which we are using it in the whole code itself are virtual and the override, and where exactly what's the need of it, everything I'll try to cover in the theory portion. So now this concept promotes code reusability and to make it easier to manage and maintain your code. So it's a bit easy for it, like unnecessary we are making so many code, so many lines we are trying to get it increase in a smart contract. It's better for us to inherit from the contract which is already built for us itself. We simply have to inherit that. That was the statement, is it. Now we're talking about the inheritance can be used to create more complex contract structure, allowing you to build an existing functionality while keeping your code organized and modular. That's straightforward. Like we can organize our code very well if we are inherit that, instead of just writing everything inside of our each and every smart contract itself. Okay, so we can use that functionality as per our need itself whenever there is a requirement for it. Now there is a two keyword which I have explained you about, a virtual and the override. What actually a virtual, why we are using a virtual syntax, and why we are utilizing a syntax as a override. So virtual, in case of virtual, this keyword is used to indicate that a function in a base contract is meant to overridden by a derived contract. It allows a function to define in the derived contract. Okay, so what it means, like in case of virtual, whenever we want any functions to be get it call inside of the derived contract. Derived contract is the contract where we want to inherit the functionality inside of it, and there is a base contract which we call it as a original. So if we just making a difference between, there is a one is the original smart contract, there is a one smart contract which we want to build it, where we want the functionality to be inherit, that we call it as a derived contract, and wheresoever this is where we have all the functionalities present, that we call it as a base contract. So whensoever we are derived overwritten any functionality over there inside of the derived contract itself, then we call it as, we are using a keyword as a virtual itself. If we're talking about the overridden, so this keyword is used to explicitly state that a function in a derived contract is intended to overwritten a function in the base contract. It ensures that the overwritten function signature matches the one in the base contract. So it should be an exact same replica of it, which we have to use. Wheresoever we try to get it inherited, try to get override, it should be get it same, exact same, similar type of, we'll just try to build it so that it's the whole clone will be get it inherited in our derived contract itself. Okay, that's the difference between overwritten and the virtual. These things I'll try to get it covered in the later phase when we are seeing the code itself. Okay, so now let me go to the code code directly and showcase you how exactly this will work. Okay, let me go to the system now. So proceeding further with the practical section for it, so you can able to see the screen itself, and in this we have built this code for the inheritance. There are three contracts I have built it from my side. The contract one is contract A, there is contract B, and the contract C. Okay, this is a straightforward same syntax which we are using it in all the codes. Now we going further with that contract A. This is the base contract which I'm talking about at the time of the theory portion itself. So I'll just explain you about the base contract. This is a base contract. What exactly is happening inside of it, that's I'll try to get it explain you. So this is the same as it is same function itself which we have to get it define it. So that's the same function. We'll try to make it this public. We want that the content to be get it return it back, whatever the content we are defining over here itself to be get it returned back. That was the reason we have mentioned that as a memory itself. And now if we're talking about this, as this is a RAM itself, so that was the reason behind it. So if we're talking about this section for it, this is also the same function. Now the function 3 is different from the normal one. So over here itself we are defining one keyword which we have already discussed about it. That's a virtual one. So virtual, we are using it when we want this function to be get it inherited instead of the derived contract. So this is a base and this is a derived one which we discuss about later on. So now when we define a virtual, so definitely this function can be inherited from one contract to the another contract. Now if we're talking about the another, this is also having virtual keyword, and this, it means only two functions which we are seeing it, function 3 and the function 4 can be get it inherited to another contracts also. But if we're talking about the function 1 and 2, that's not at all that's be get it utilized only in the contract A, as we have not utilized a virtual keyword inside of it. Now we go to the contract B. So contract B is utilizing two functions to be get it overwritten, and rest everything is get it inherited. So the thing is that, like if we're talking about inheritance, so the whole whatever the things we have it inside of the contract A, it get be inherited, but we have the option to override that. That's the only concept behind it. So I'll just make it very correct once again. I'll just forget to mention that earlier also. So inherited doesn't means only like when we're using a virtual only those sections will be get inherited. No, it will inherit the whole. But if we want to get it modify whatever the existing function we have it and the content inside of that function we have it, if we want to get it modify that, then we have to use the virtual in those key functions. And at the time when we are inherited inside of the another contract which we call it as a derived contract, then in that case we have to use a override just to correct that, just to override the content which we are getting return it back in contract A. We're trying to get it modify that and return as per our needs and whatever we want to get it return it back. Okay, so over here itself, if we trying to run it, so at the time when I just try to get execute that, you can able to see we are able to see all the function inside of the contract A, contract B and contract C everywhere. But wheresoever we are using a virtual and override, over there only we can see like those things will be get it override, and then after that you can't like those things will be get it modified, but rest everything as it is if we are not using a virtual and override. Now if I'm talking about override over here itself, then in that case we can override that and we can see this content in return. Now if I'm going to this function, so over here itself, as we have used virtual and override over here, but we are using one more thing over here, that's virtual and override both together. So it means this whensoever we go for the contract C, so this will be get inherited and get modified as the things can be override inside of the contract C also. So these two things are get it override over here in contract B, but in contract C only one function is get it override, as we are using a virtual over there itself. So we are having the possibility to override that function only. Other than that, so rest thing will be get it populated as it is. I'll show you that once I'll run that code itself for you. So now we'll go to the code. Let me compile the code and let me deploy that. So this I have deployed the contract A. Now I'll deploy contract B. Now I'll deploy contract C. We'll go one by one. So this is as it is the same, whatever the value we have defined inside of the contract A, we are getting that output accordingly. Contract A, contract A, contract A, contract A, as it's a base contract. Okay, now this is closed for you. Now I'm talking about the contract B. So if we try to run function 1, this should be contract A, as we are not overriding anything inside of it. Now if I'll click on the function 2, I'm seeing the same output which I'm having in the base contract. Now if I'll click on function 3, I'm seeing a contract B. So the reason is that as we are using virtual and trying to get it override over here itself, so whatever the content we are populating here, that we get it return. Now if I'll click on function 4, then at the time also the same situation happen over here itself. The same things to be get it return as I'm seeing contract B. So the thing is that we are using virtual and override. So it means we can modify the content which we have it inside of the base contract. We can derive it and then we can modify that also. Okay. Now this is done. Now if I'll go to the last contract, that we call it as a C, and this is a little bit tweak over here itself. So function 1 is clear, function 2 is clear. Now if I talk about the function 3, so function 3 having a value contract B. So now over here itself, as in a function 3, why it's coming as contract B? The reason is that for contract C, contract B is a base contract for them. So contract C is not aware over any other contract. It's having a visibility like contract B is a base contract, as this is a base contract for contract C, and contract C itself is become as a derived contract. Okay, so when it's trying to pull it, then at that time whatever the values get it override in the function 3, that will be get it reflected. So when it's trying to inherit the whole all the function itself over there itself, so the value for function 1 and function 2 over there as it is, which we are getting it from the contract A, but the function 3 values get overwritten in contract B. So when we are trying to inherit, it's coming as it is, as we are not changing anything. It's just make it as contract B only. Okay, now if we're talking about the last one, as we're using override as always, like we can modify the content, whatever the things we are trying to get it modify over there in function 4 in contract B. When we are calling the same thing in a derived contract over here itself, then in that case we can return the same value, whatever the value we want to get it, return it back. Okay, so that's the concept, and then that's the reason behind it. When we are trying to run contract 4, we can see this is the output, as we are trying to override the value of it, whatever the value we are deriving it from the contract B, which is a base contract for contract C. Then at the time once it's coming over there itself, we have the option, as we're using virtual override in case of contract B, that function 4, and when we're using the same function inside of the contract C, then at that time we are using override. So we have the right to override the content which we want to get it, return it back. That was the reason when we are trying to return it back, the content whatever we are defining over here itself get reflected back, and when we're trying to call this function 4, we are getting the return it back with a contract C instead of having the whatever we have defined over there itself. So I hope you are able to understand the whole concept behind it, what actually the inherit doing it, what actually the virtual is doing it, why we are utilizing the virtual, why we are using a override. Make it very clear once again with a small description of inheritance is one of the concept where we are utilizing the functionality of one contract to be getting inherited in another contract, where we try to use the functionality. Okay, we do not want to write the same functionality again and again in different contract itself. So that was the reason we are using concept of inheritance, where we're just trying to inherit the functionality from a base contract to the derived contract, and that's it. We can utilize it as it is. So there is, by this way itself, we can make a smart contract more efficient, more secure, and less code we have to make it, as we are utilizing the functionality from the another contract which is already a built contract. We can utilize it very easily. Just to do that, we are using two concepts of virtual and the overridden, wheresoever we are defining whatever the functionality we wanted to be get it inherited instead of the derived contract from the base contract. Then in that case, in the base contract we had to define it as a virtual, and wheresoever we want to be get it derived, and at that time when we are calling that functionality, we wanted that to be get it modified, whatever the things we trying to do it over there itself, we just simply have to use, along with that function, we have to use the override is the keyword by which we can override the content over there itself inside of when we are inherited the content the functionality we can inherit it, but the content which you want to get it modify over there is we can do that very easily. So that's exactly be a concept behind it. That's only the thing which I just want to get it covered in this video. So I hope you can able to understand. This is a long video. I think this near around a 15 minutes video, but I just try my best to get it make you understand like what actually the inheritance, how we utilize that. There's a lot of things which is coming under the Solidity, but this is also one of the concept where we can minimize the code and make it very efficient. Okay, so if you like this video, please subscribe my channel. Thank you so much once again. Take care. Bye bye.